afternoon, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 53, paragraph 1, is that which gives an opportunity for the members to be able to request or to seek for statements from various standing committees. This afternoon, the Senator for Vihiga County, Honorable Godfrey Osotsi, is set to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights. This regards the implementation of the government's compensation and reparations program for victims of demonstrations-related violence and enforced disappearances. The Honorable nominated Senator Hamida Kibwana this afternoon, once the House commences, or once the sitting commences, will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the cases of unregulated developments, encroachment on public spaces, and obstruction of roads, pedestrian walkways, and drainage systems in estates within the Nairobi City County. Pursuant to that provision, well, the 10-minute quorum bell has lapsed. We should be getting a communication from the Speaker on whether the quorum has been attained for the House to be able to commence. And we shall just wait for the Speaker to indicate. However, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 53 also, I shall continue to read out these particular statements that the members shall be seeking this afternoon. The Senator for Marsabit County, Honorable Mohamed Chute, will this afternoon seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the state of electricity connectivity in Sesi, Moyale constituency, and also in Luyai, Lupas, Turuya, and all right, let's listen in.
Honorable Senators, we do have quorum now. Kindly take your seats. Senator Osotsi and Senator for Kakamega. Clerk, you may proceed to call the first order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I take this opportunity to welcome you back from the recess. I hope you had time to meet with your constituents, friends, and families over the past 3 weeks. I also hope that you took time to rejuvenate your spirits for the resumption of regular sittings for part 4 of the 5th session. This part will run until the rise of the Senate on Thursday, 6th of August, 2026. Now, Honorable Senators, as you will recall, in part 3 of the session, Parliament considered and passed the following bills. The Counter Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2026, and the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of 2026. The Counter Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2026, was assented to by His Excellency the President on the 29th of June 2026. Further, the Senate considered and passed the report on the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the county government's equitable share cash disbursement schedule for the financial year 2026-2027, thereby approving the release of the requisite funds to the county governments to enable them to perform their functions. However, I take this opportunity to remind you that we still have a long way to go in processing business. As indicated in today's order paper and the program of business, the legislative agenda before the Senate is heavy. To dispense with the business in timely manner, it requires sacrifices to be made on the part of all honorable senators, including coming into the plenary early and sitting through until the rise of the House. Above all, it is imperative that the movers of business listed in the order paper are in the chamber to prosecute the same. On my part, as usual, I will, in consultation with the Senate leadership, implement measures aimed at expediting and processing of businesses in the Senate. These measures will include the enforcement of time limits on questions and statements, as well as the allocation of time for motions and bills in accordance with the standing orders. Furthermore, the majority and minority party whips are urged to ensure that the requisite number of county delegations is achieved whenever there are divisions to be undertaken. Honorable Senators, as I conclude, I wish to reiterate that my office remains open and accessible to all senators for consultations and support in fulfilling your constitutional duties. I wish you a fruitful engagement in part 4 of the 5th session. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Senator Koreri, you may want to greet your colleagues later so that we proceed with business. Now, honorable senators, I have several messages to report to you. I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3 and 4, I received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill, National Assembly Bill number 41 of 2025. The message, dated Thursday, 18th of June 2026, was received in the office of the Clerk of the Senate on Tuesday, 23rd June 2026, when the Senate had proceeded on recess. It was subsequently circulated to all honorable senators via letter dated 24th of June 2026. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 46.5, I now report the message. Whereas the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill, National Assembly Bill number 41 of 2025, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 144 of 17th of July 2025 as a bill seeking to provide for the responsibility of the national and county governments in the realization of quality of healthcare for patients, to provide for the establishment, powers, functions of the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Authority, registration, licensing, accreditation of health facilities, to provide for the setting of standards for quality of healthcare and for connected purposes. And whereas on the 2nd of June 2026, the National Assembly considered the bill and passed it with amendments in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby refer the bill to the Senate for consideration. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order number 163, which requires that a bill which originates in the National Assembly be proceeded with by the Senate in the manner as the bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading in accordance with Standing Order 144. The bill has been accordingly listed in the order paper. Thank you. Again, honorable senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 463, I received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Kenya National Library Service Bill, National Assembly Bills number 20 of 2023. The message dated Wednesday, 1st of July 2026 was received in the office of the Clerk of the Senate on Friday, 3rd July 2026 and subsequently circulated to senators via letter dated 7th of July 2026. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 465, I now proceed to report the message. Whereas the Kenya National Library Service Bill, National Assembly Bills number 20 of 2023, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 74 of 24th of May 2023 as a bill to give effect to Article 11.2a of the Constitution to establish the Kenya National Library Service and provide for the management of the Kenya National Library Service. And whereas on Wednesday, 1st of July 2026, the National Assembly considered and passed the said bill with amendments and in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110.4 of the Constitution and Standing Order 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby refer the said bill to the Senate for consideration. Now, honorable senators, pursuant to Standing Order 163, a bill originating in the National Assembly is proceeded with by the Senate in the same manner as a bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading and in accordance with Standing Order 144. Accordingly, the Kenya National Library Service Bill, National Assembly Bills number 2023 will be listed in tomorrow's order paper for the first reading. Honorable senators, I further wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 463, I received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2026. The message dated February 2026 was received in the office of the Clerk of the Senate on the same date. Pursuant to Standing Order 465, I now proceed to report the message. Whereas the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2026, was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 107 of 30th of April 2026 as a bill concerning county governments to provide for, enter earlier, the equitable allocation of revenue raised nationally among the county governments for the year 2026-2027 and the responsibilities of the national and county governments pursuant to such allocations. And whereas the Senate considered and passed the bill with amendments on Wednesday, 17th of June 2026, and thereafter referred it to the National Assembly for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Article 110.4 of the Constitution. And whereas on Thursday, 25th of June 2026, the National Assembly considered and passed the bill without amendments in the form passed by the Senate. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 41.1 and 144 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Now, honorable senators, you will recall that I transmitted this message to all senators via the letter reference SCN/L&P/MSG 2026 into bracket 01, dated the 26th of June 2026, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 46.5. In that letter, I indicated that in view of the fact that the National Assembly had passed the county allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2026 without amendments, I will be referring the bill to His Excellency the President for assent, pursuant to Standing Order 169.1 and Article 110.5 of the Constitution. Honorable Senators, I wish to inform you that the bill was assented to on Monday, the 29th of June 2026. Honorable Senators, you may take your seats before I proceed to conclude the messages. Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3, I received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Services Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2022. The message dated Wednesday, 1st of July 2026 was received in the office of the Clerk of the Senate on Friday, 3rd July 2026. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 46.5, I now report the message. Whereas the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Services Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2022, was passed by the Senate on Wednesday, 21st of February 2024, and thereafter referred to the National Assembly for consideration pursuant to Article 110.4 of the Constitution. And whereas the National Assembly considered and passed the said bill on Wednesday, 10th of June 2026 with amendments in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 112.1b of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41.1 and 144 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, you will recall that this message, together with the schedule of the National Assembly amendments to the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Services Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2022, was transmitted to all honorable senators via the letter reference SNN /L&P message .2026 into brackets 02, dated the 7th of July 2026, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Orders 46.5 and 165.1. In the letter, I did indicate that. Now, honorable senators, you will recall that this message, together with the schedule of the National Assembly amendments to the Kenya Sign Language Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2023, was transmitted to all honorable senators via the letter reference SNN /L&P message 2026 into brackets 02, dated the 7th of July 2026, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Orders 46.5 and 165.1. In the said letter, I indicated that I had directed the relevant standing committee to consider the National Assembly amendments and table its report in order to facilitate the Senate's consideration of the said amendments. Honorable Senators, the National Assembly amendments were referred to the Standing Committee on Education, which is now required to table its report on or before the 28th of July 2026. The Senate Business Committee will thereafter appoint a time for the motion for consideration of the amendments by the House. The House is guided accordingly. Finally, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3, I received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the County Government Amendment Bills, Senate Bills number 25 of 2022. 2023. The message dated Thursday, 2nd of July 2026 was received in the office of the Clerk of the Senate on Friday, 3rd July 2026. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 46.5, I now report the message. Whereas the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 25 of 2023, was passed by the Senate on Thursday, 2nd of May 2024, and thereafter referred to the National Assembly for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Article 110.4 of the Constitution. And whereas on Wednesday, 1st of July 2026, the National Assembly considered and passed the said bill with amendments as contained in the schedule of amendments attached herewith. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 112.1b of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41.1 and 144 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the assembled Senate. Now, Honorable Senators, you will recall that this message, together with the schedule of the National Assembly amendments to the county governments, Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 25 of 2023, was transmitted to all senators via a letter reference SEN/LNP message 2026 into bracket 02 dated the 7th of July 2026 in accordance with the provisions of Standing Orders 46.5 and 165.1. In the letter, I did indicate that I had directed the relevant standing committee to consider the National Assembly amendments and table its report in order to facilitate the Senate's consideration of the said amendments. Now, Honorable Senators, the National Assembly amendments were indeed referred to the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, which is required to table its report on or before Tuesday, 28th of July 2026. The Senate Business Committee will thereafter appoint a time for the motion for consideration of the amendments by the Senate. The House is guided accordingly. Next order, clerk. Yes, Senator Kamega, you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for that communication, and also thank the National Assembly for the quick action they took on our business on the matter of county allocation of revenue bill. I also want to thank the President for signing. Mr. Speaker, you have made communications on important issues concerning Kenyans, on health, on agriculture, Mr. Speaker, and on sign language. Mr. Speaker, you have responded by quickly putting the business from the National Assembly as a priority. Could you either explain or give your commitment to this House that when our business goes to the National Assembly, the National Assembly will receive and also prioritize that business with the urgency that it deserves, because, Mr. Speaker, as you know, there's a lot of our business that sits on the shelves in the National Assembly without action being taken. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Senator Kakamega, indeed, the Senate Business Committee has discussed a particular concern. I have personally, as your Speaker, taken this matter to the Speaker of the National Assembly. I have written a letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly. I have personally walked across to have a meeting with the Speaker of the National Assembly. And I've been given an undertaking that the business that emanates from this house to our sister house will be given priority, just like we give priority to the business from the National Assembly. So we hope that that undertaking will help us move business that originates from either house. Next order. Yes, Senator Amok.
Thank you, the Speaker, for that assurance. It's actually refreshing to hear that there is a commitment on the other side to fast track the business that emanates from the Senate. The Speaker, we all know that agriculture is a devolved function. And I have heard you, Mr. Speaker, in your messages make reference to the livestock bill. The Speaker, at whatever stage then that bill becomes the business of this House or even the National Assembly, the Speaker just wanted to bring to your attention and the attention of the House, indeed the attention of the country, that currently, the Speaker, we seem to be having a major problem with the importation of livestock from South Africa because of an outbreak of a foot and mouth. And the Speaker, there is millions of shillings, actually almost billions of shillings of Kenya's money that is stuck with the importers. They cannot bring in their animals because their quarantines have been declared in certain regions within South Africa. So the Speaker, when that matter comes up for debate, if it does, either here or on the other side of the House, then it will be important, the Speaker, to consider the plight of livestock importers, especially those that are bringing in animals from the Southern African region. I thank you, the Speaker.
Very well, Honorable Senator. You need not wait until somebody prompts either house to move. You may, either by way of a statement or a question directed to the relevant ministry, have this matter addressed. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
The Senator for Nairobi City County, the Honorable Edwin Sifuna.
Thank you, Speaker. It's good to see you after the break, and colleagues. I have a petition by informal traders and residents affected by the Kenya Railway projects in Nairobi. We, the undersigned, citizens of the Republic of Kenya, residents and former traders of Laini Sabah market operating within Laini Sabah and Woodley wards in Kibra constituency, draw the attention of the Senate to the following. Number 1, that we are informal traders and residents affected by the Kenya Railways project in Laini Sabah and Woodley wards in Kibra constituency, who have for many years occupied the areas for trade and livelihood and were duly identified and enumerated as project affected persons. But despite our long-standing occupation and prior enumeration, Kenya Railways Corporation has subjected us to intimidation, harassment, selective demolitions, arrests of leaders, backdated notices, forced evictions, and displacement without due process or fair administrative action. That the timing of the demolitions and evictions has often coincided with peak business periods, thereby disrupting our businesses, livelihoods, and economic survival. That the actions complained of amount to unfair, oppressive, and discriminatory treatment against marginalized traders and residents. That the actions were carried out without proper public participation, transparency, and a failure to uphold accountability in the planning, procurement, implementation, and relocation processes affecting the petitioners. That the failure by relevant public bodies to properly coordinate the resettlement and relocation process has precipitated and worsened the crisis facing the petitioners. That the purported resettlement and relocation facilities provided are structurally deficient, inadequately designed, economically unviable, insecure, and lack basic amenities and supporting infrastructure, including water, sanitation, access roads, and disability-friendly facilities. That we have made the best efforts to have these matters addressed by the Nairobi City County and national government officials, written complaints to Kenya Railways and relevant ministries, all of which have failed to give a satisfactory response. That none of these issues raised in this petition are pending in any court of law, constitutional, or any other legal body. Wherefore, your humble petitioners pray that the Senate investigates this matter with a view to recommending that the affected traders and residents are one, Kenya Railways project, and two, be resettled in adequate, safe, and functional facilities to enable them sustainably carry on their trade and livelihoods. Reported by Senator Sifuna, Senator Nairobi County. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Senate. Commit the petition to the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing. The said committee to table its report in the Senate for consideration. Next.
Order number 5, papers.
The Senate Majority Leader.
The following papers on the table of the Senate budget, COB, report on the county government 2025-2026, 2, the annual statutory report on the operations and performance of the regulated circles in Kenya for the year 2024, and finally 3, report on the National Treasury on all new loans contracted by the government from 1st January 2026 to 30th April 2026. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Energy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 14 July 2026. Report of the Standing Committee on Energy regarding alleged irregularities in the petroleum products supply chain. Second, report of the Standing Committee on Energy on its inquiry regarding the handing over of a cooking gas handling facility in Mombasa County to a private farm. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, Honorable Senators, before I allow the clerk to call the next order, kindly allow me to make the following communication. As you may have noted, the Senate Majority Leader laid on the table of the Senate this afternoon the report of the National Treasury and Economic Planning on all loans contracted by Government of Kenya from 1st of January 2026 to the 30th of April 2026. The report by the National Treasury on the stated period contains details on all loans signed between the national government and various creditors. Now, Honorable Senators, Section 31(1) of the Public Finance Management Act states, and I quote, "The Cabinet Secretary shall submit to Parliament every 4 months a report of all loans made to the national government entities and county governments in accordance with Article 211(2) of the Constitution." Now, pursuant to Section 31(3) of the Public Finance Management Act, the report submitted to Parliament should contain the following: the names of the parties to the loan, the amount of the loan and the currency in which it is expressed and in which is repayable, the terms and conditions of the loan, including interest and other charges payable and the terms of repayment, the amount of the loan advance at the time the report is submitted, and the purpose for which the loan was used and the perceived benefits of the loan, and such other information as the Cabinet Secretary may consider appropriate. Now, Honorable Senators, given the importance of the national debt in our public finance management framework, I hereby commit the report of the National Treasury and Economic Planning on all new loans contracted by the Government of Kenya from 1st of January 2026 to 30th of April 2026 to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for consideration. The committee is required to table a report on the matter at an appropriate time. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Energy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Energy regarding alleged irregularities in the petroleum products supply chain laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, today, 14 July 2026. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You had two notices.
Scene 1. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Energy on its inquiry regarding the handing over of a cooking handling facility in Mombasa County to a private firm laid on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 14th July 2026.
Next order. Yes, Honorable Omtata, Senator.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. What my inquiry regards the report that has been tabled. I made a statement, a request for a statement on the floor of the House. It went to the Committee of Energy. The minister made a preliminary report, or the minister responded to my statement. I was dissatisfied. Then the committee decided to short-circuit the process by going into an inquiry mode, and I've tabled an inquiry here, an inquiry report, without responding to my statement. My statement was precisely on the issue that has been tabled here. And I think before we debate that report, I would require some clarification of what really happened. And in that inquiry, I was not invited. I'm just hearing of it on the floor of this House right now. So I would need some guidance on really, if that's how we're going to conduct business in this House.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Omtata. I will look into it and give guidance on the matter in the next. Let me give an indication as Tuesday next week. Thank you. Questions and statements. Clerk, could you call this order?
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Now, request for statement pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. The Senator for Vihiga County, the Honorable Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to request for a statement on the implementation of the government's compensation and reparation program for victims of demonstration-related violence. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on a matter of national concern regarding the implementation of the government's compensation and reparation program for victims of demonstration-related violence and enforced disappearances. Mr. Speaker, sir, while the recent allocation of Kenya shillings 2 billion has offered hope to affected families many continue to grapple with the loss, trauma, and uncertainty. Concerns have been raised about transparency, accountability, and whether the program will adequately address the plight of all victims, underscoring the need for clarity and justice in its implementation. In the statement, the committee should address the following: the criteria used by the government and the relevant agencies to identify the victims or beneficiaries, including verification processes, categories of victims, claims received, and timelines for disbursement of compensation. 2, the status of compensation and support, covering families of the deceased, injured persons, and victims of torture or any or other human rights violation, with attention to medical, psychological, legal, and socio-economic needs. 3, efforts to trace missing persons, the progress of investigation into such cases, and the assistance extended to their families pending conclusion of investigation. 4, accountability measures including investigation, prosecution, disciplinary action against those implicated in unlawful killings, torture, and other human rights violations and enforced disappearances. 5, the steps being taken by the government to prevent future violations during public demonstration, political rallies, including reforms, oversight mechanisms, and other implementation of recommendations from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and other relevant bodies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator Hamida Kibwana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statement is regarding the encroachment of public spaces and blockage of roads and drainage systems in estates within Nairobi City County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on a matter of a county-wide concern regarding the increased cases of unregulated developments, encroachment on public spaces and obstruction of roads, pedestrian walkways, and drainage systems in estates within Nairobi City County. Mr. Speaker, sir, some developers in Nairobi City County continue construction works that interfere with public infrastructure and compromise resident safety, accessibility, and general welfare. These practices include excavating plots from beacon to beacon, obstructing access roads with construction materials, encroaching on pedestrian walkways, extending cabro works to the edge of public walkways, and blocking drainage systems. Residents, particularly in the California area of Nairobi, have been adversely affected and attribute this problem to weak enforcement, irregular approvals, and possible collusion between developers and county government officers responsible for planning approvals, inspections, and development control. In the statement, the committee should address the following: the status of enforcement of development control regulations in estates within Nairobi City County, particularly the California area, including whether ongoing and recently completed developments comply with approved building plans, zoning requirements, setbacks, road reserves, public safety standards, and whether any approvals have been granted for developments that encroach on public roads, pedestrian walkways, drainage channels, or other public utility spaces. Number 3, the measures to prevent developers from undertaking excavations from beacon to beacon or carrying out construction activities that comprise neighboring properties, public access drainage, pedestrian safety, or other public infrastructure. Number 3, the action taken against developers who encroach on public utility spaces or who obstruct public roads with construction materials during construction, including any enforcement notices, penalties, restoration orders, stop orders, or other sanctions issued. Number 4, whether there is collision involving county officers in the approval, inspection, and enforcement processes for developments within Nairobi City County, particularly the California area, and the steps taken to investigate such claims and hold capable officers accountable. Finally, the immediate measures being undertaken and the timelines for implementation to restore blocked roads, pedestrian walkways, and drainage systems, including the removal of encroachments and other obstructions affecting public access and safety. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Senator from Marsabit County, the Honorable Mohammed Chute, who has 4 statements. All the 4 statements are hereby dropped. I will allow comments on the statement by the Senator for Vihiga County and Senator Hamida Kibwana for not more than 15 minutes. So if you get an opportunity to speak, kindly do so for not more than 3 minutes. Senator Muthama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I want to welcome all of us again after the session that we had to visit our counties. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the statement by Senator Osozi of Vihiga about the compensation of the people who have been killed through demonstrations. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President for the compensation, but also to say that the compensation of the money is not enough. The committee should go ahead and seek justice for the departed lives. And Mr. Speaker, it would be also very important for the same families to be cancelled, provide psychosocial counseling for the families so that they can go through the mourning and the separation from their loved ones with medically being counseled so that they can learn how to live without their loved ones. Mr. Speaker, it is very painful when a child leaves home going on their own businesses and then they lose their lives. And when the parents are at home waiting for them and the siblings, they just get the news that somebody has been shot. Mr. Speaker, this should stop with immediate effect because killing people while demonstrating does not solve any solution. So the committee which will handle this matter should dig deeper with the securities and the police force so that this killing of our children stops immediately, and abductions. Mr. Speaker, many of these people are abducted and many of them never appear. Their parents never get the bodies of their children to bury, and they don't even know where the children are. This is mental torture. And so that is why I'm saying that we should have rehabilitation centers for counseling so that these people can be counseled to learn how to live with this. And people.
Senator Mutenda. Senator Kavindo, are you speaking Kamba? Proceed, Senator Mutenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also take this opportunity to welcome colleagues back after a long, good recess. Quickly allow me to make brief comments for the statement from the Senator of Vihiga, Senator Sosi. And I want to appreciate Sosi from the perspective of recognizing that the government allocated 2 billion Kenya shillings. This is the first time that the Kenya Kwanza government has prioritized the plight of the families that lost their beloved ones. This is history. This has never happened before. The questions that he has raised are, I mean, they're okay, transparency, accountability, but what is key to acknowledge is the fact that 2 billion has been set to assist these families. Quickly, on the statement from my sister, Senator Hamida Kibwana, in regards to the unregulated developments, encroachment on public spaces and blockage in our great city, the city that I represent, the county of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. It is quite saddening, Mr. Speaker. As defenders of devolution, Mr. Speaker, when irregularities are entertained, when projects are done in a manner that does not adhere to the policies that have been put in place, Mr. Speaker, and we have officers sitting in different offices within the county level and allowing that projects are going to be approved irregularly, Mr. Speaker, it's unprofessional, it's incompetence, and this should come to an end. And I hope that the Committee of Transportation and Housing, led by Senator Eddy, will be able to look into this matter. It does not only affect the California area only, it affects many areas, especially now the Kilimani area has been another area whereby every Tom, Dick and Harry is just willing to throw any structures without following what needs to be done as per the NCF requirements. Mr. Speaker, those for many I support.
Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to comment on the statement by Senator Ososi. Mr. Speaker, Makueni's County was affected, and while this exercise was going on of compensation, some of the well-known cases in Makueni, like one of a young man called Brian, who was a university-going student, was just about to report. Mr. Speaker, got shot at the town when the mother had sent him to buy milk and bread, and he was carrying that, and a non-police officer who is an AP in the region, Mr. Speaker, shot him and he died, and then he ran and hid himself in one of the local banks there, Mr. Speaker, and the bank had to be brought down by people for this officer to be removed. arrested and handed over to the OCS in Mali. That officer is known. No prosecution has been done to him. And when it came to this conversation, the mother rang me and said she was being given a lot of problems, Mr. Speaker, related to this. This was the only child. She's the only relative around, but there were issues as to other relatives, succession, and the last we talked with her, she was very stuck, and then compensation was unable to be processed for her. Similarly, in Kinyambu, Kibwezi, Makueni County, is a young man called Stephen Kabingo who disappeared with the Mulolongo 4. 2 were found dead, 2 have never been found. Stephen Kabingo and Mr. Karani from Yata. And the one, Ziuko, was buried in a place called Kilungu. And I'm the one who went there to make sure that from the DNA identification and all those things were done. But again, this person left young family. Compensation has not come forth. So, Mr. Speaker, this will be very good, and it's coming to the Committee of Justice, where I sit, that we can get clarity as to whether this is just an exercise in talk or whether there is real conversation going on with any family in Kenya. Because I saw complaints from Machakos as they commemorated some of the young people's disappearances and killings. We really want, as a committee, to look at it and make sure that, Mr. Speaker, everything comes to light, and summon, as a committee of parliament, as a committee of justice, all those people involved so that they can come and tell us what is happening, bring the data, bring the figures, bring the names, so that the whole country can know. This is public money, Mr. Speaker, and I believe it be public money. Everyone should be able to scrutinize and know. But most families are saying they've been threatened, they are unable to talk, they cannot comment on this. Mr. Speaker, this is against the Constitution, and we want clarity, proper use of public money, so that the 2 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker, does not end up ever be spent. So I thank Honorable Ososi for this particular request. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the Senator of Vihiga in respect of his statement on the extrajudicial killings. He has raised a very valid point, Mr. Speaker, of the selection criteria of who benefited. This draws the attention of the people of Kakamega immediately, because, Mr. Speaker, during the recent demonstrations in Kakamega, specifically Kolomani constituency, over mining rights, tens of people were injured, property was destroyed, primary schools were run down, Mr. Speaker, and young people lost their lives. We would like the committee, Mr. Speaker, to tell us why the following children, young artisanal miners who were shot dead, have not been included on the list. 1, Mr. Speaker, Conrad Ashioya Esese. 2, Sakaria Shtendeza. 3, Wilberforce Ichechi. And 5, Duncan Ochieng. Why were they not on the list of beneficiaries? Number 2, why were leaders who were arrested and harassed for defending these children, why were they not put on the list of compensation, specifically nominated member of the County Assembly of Kakamega, Mama Anne Maliho, a woman in her 60s, Mr. Speaker. She was beaten in her house before her own children, before her own husband, and taken to Kakamega after being rotated around in the night, Mr. Speaker. Why was she not compensated? Mr. Speaker, why were the parents of the young girls who were raped during this period of violence by the police not compensated? And finally,
problems, but I'm still standing. Speaker, do you know that even when we speak about compensation of people who were injured in previous demonstrations, this administration continues to manufacture fresh victims. You have heard the Senator of Kakamega about the protests that were happening in Kolomani. People here, the senators here are aware that we lost 2 people in Laikipia who are protesting the decision by this government to set up an Ebola containment facility in Laikipia. We are manufacturing more victims before that 2 billion shillings hits the accounts of the people we killed in previous protests, Honorable Speaker. Those of you, I know we were on recess, those of you who were around Nairobi during the anniversary of the June 25th protests, and even Sabasaba, Honorable Speaker, this entire city was cordoned off. There was nothing happening in Nairobi. We had the very same things we've been protesting that we don't want to see police behaving the way they are behaving in other protests. We saw them just a few weeks ago, Honorable Speaker, during Sabasaba. So it is not something that anyone should take pride in. I have had occasion to speak to the people in this country. Many of them will tell you they would rather have their children back than that money that people are waxing lyrical about here. Honorable Speaker, therefore, for me, yes, we want that compensation to be paid, but it's not something to take pride in. In fact, we should be pushing for justice and an end to the sort of behaviors that causes people to die in the first place. Secondly, on the statement by Senator Hamida, you know, Speaker, in this city there used to be a time when we had proper leadership, when the times when people like Raila Odinga were in government. If you have built a structure on a road reserve, that structure used to be removed. I don't understand where we lost I don't understand where we lost that practice, Honorable Speaker. Those of you who remember, there was a very big building opposite Timol on Langata Road that had been built on a river. And I remember we had this, we are securing our riparian areas. That building was brought down. When we were building the southern bypass, Honorable Speaker, instead of the government telling the people who have built houses on the southern bypass, we went and carved space inside our national park to make room for the southern bypass. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, we could all agree that it is extremely selfish. Can you imagine the entire city coming to a standstill after rains and all of us drowning there just because one person has decided that they have to put a
Senator Wakwabubi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. I would like to contribute towards Senator Ososi's statement on Senator Ososi's statement on implementation of compensation. One, I also want to recommend or rather laud the government for taking that concrete step on compensating the verified victims. That is an indication of the government's commitment to justice, reconciliation, and national healing. And in addition to compensation, I also feel that prevention is more critical, and it is time for us to make, or rather strengthen our security agency systems to expedite the investigations and doing on. I also want us to look at the value of Kenyans enjoying their constitutional rights to life, dignity, and peaceful assembly. It is constitutional
or it is rather laid down in the Constitution, that picketing is allowed, but let us uphold the peaceful demonstrations to avoid such like issues whereby they are used as a cover of criminality, destruction of property, and even attack on the law enforcement officers. Finally, I want to urge the relevant committee to ensure that the compensation process is transparent, fair, and victim-centered, with genuine claimants treated equally regardless of political affiliation, ethnicity, or social status. And as leaders, we have to support such like initiatives to promote justice while safeguarding peace, national unity, and the rule of law for the benefit of all Kenyans. I also want to comment on Senator Hamida's point on encroachment. I think it is driven by the rapid urbanization, whereby people are out to grab public land to settle themselves, and it is affecting our lands, mostly the riparian grounds, and even informal structures that are raised or mounted along the road reserves. We have billboards that are mounted all over, and this mounting tends to snatch away land that is meant for maybe public development, and it also affects.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to two statements. The statement by Senator Osoti and the one by Senator Hamida. Honorable Speaker, on the first statement, I would want to call on all of us in the political space as the leaders, and also those in the governing political faction, that this country needs to step back from this habit that is happening of intolerance, of not allowing people to have divergent views, of stepping up against people exercising their freedoms. I think it is not good for anybody, it's not good for government, it's not good for opposition. It's degenerating into the issue of Goonism, and I don't think the answer can merely be that we are now compensating. And I want to remind us, this is not the first time we are compensating. We actually compensated victims in Mau, victims of Kiambaa. Can we do our history to find out how we have compensated victims of violence in this country? And that has been there. In fact, this issue went to court, and the court ruled about Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, but we have precedent. And I did submit a statement to actually ask internal security to tell us how previous victims were compensated. I don't think it is something we need to be proud of, that there are people who have disappeared and who are yet to be found. I don't think any amount of money can compensate them. I can see the yellow light. So I'll move on to the statement by Hamida. Honorable Speaker, that statement speaks to the failure by national government to enforce standards. The national government and our devolved governance is the one in charge of standards, and it is the county governments are supposed to carry out their mandate in accordance with those standards. But currently, our Committee on Devolution is interrogating how counties are implementing the urban areas and cities law. And, Honorable Speaker, they are not actually implementing this. Towns are not being planned properly, and national government, in fact, there is hardly any intergovernmental sectoral committee between the roads and the other sectors.
Should withdraw that statement, Honorable Speaker, from the answer, or the consequences that follow naturally should follow. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Fernandez. You either proceed to substantiate that assertion you've just made, that Linda Monach is being sponsored by the former president. If you don't have, if you're not in a position to substantiate, then just withdraw, apologize, and proceed.
Mr. Speaker, can I be allowed tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, therefore, it is honest because during the State of the Nation address, answered to compensate historical injustice and victims, but it never followed through, Mr. Speaker. So we must appreciate that the President went ahead, ensure that the compensation panel is there, Mr. Speaker. I am happy 674 million has been paid to 505 victims, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, what struck me out is on the issue of sexual violence, Mr. Speaker. That at least 1 million, I know we can never get lives back, we can never get dignity back, but that is the least we can do as a country. You know, we need to be honest. When I see my colleagues pontificating themselves, the fact that people were killed is very unfortunate. But we must how to write. And that is why the government has come up on how we can compensate some of these victims. Even from my own county, I want the young people who are beaten up playing pool table in Nandilstown to be compensated. Police allegedly killed my people in Kimwani over land skirmishes, Mr. Speaker. Even in Angata Baragoi, in Narok, there are many Kenyans who have been killed there. We would want them to be compensated. But there must be a procedure, and we must appreciate the goodwill of President William Ruto and his government in partnership with the ODM leader, Dr. Oburu Oginga, Mr. Speaker. We must celebrate that, Mr. Speaker. And we must also appreciate the freedom of Mr. Speaker.
Senator Hezana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to contribute to the statement by Senator Osotsi, the Senator for Vihiga County, on the implementation of the government's compensation and reparation program for victims of demonstration-related violence. Mr. Speaker, while I appreciate the President of Kenya, in partnership with my party leader, Dr. Oburu Odinga, in ensuring that we have compensation for the victims of demonstration activities. But then I can't, I do not know whether the compensation will actually heal these families. I think there is also a need to ensure that the families get counseling, guiding and counseling to ensure that the trauma, they survive or come out of the trauma that these families and communities have gone through. And with the same breath, Mr. Speaker, I would wish that we start treating all Kenyans fairly, all Kenyans equally, across the divide, from south to north, from east to west, because each community, Mr. Speaker, deserves to be compensated for the lives it has lost. When we talk about the north, every day we are going through banditry. Our people are being killed on a daily basis. Our people have died in Samburu East, in Samburu North, in Samburu West, in Turkana. We have lost both Turkanas in Charda and Samburus in Loiborngare, Mr. Speaker. But we never hear about any compensation. These people are treated like flies. They deserve to die. They are treated like children of a lesser God. But it looks like their lives that are more precious in this country than others, Mr. Speaker. It is important that we are told who is going to fight. When committees like NADCO going to be formed to speak and defend the people in the northern parts of the country and among marginalized and pastoralist communities, Mr. Speaker. Just within this past week, we have lost 3 lives. Our people cannot sleep in Poro. They cannot sleep in Loiborngare. They cannot sleep in Charda. But who talks about compensation? The moment the government starts to stretch its long arm, as we are told, to every part of this country, this is the day we will say, indeed, this compensation is worthy. Our lives are precious. Every Kenyan citizen matters, and it is the right of the government to ensure protection of every Kenyan citizen. Mr. Speaker, every time we lose our livestock, our people are sent back to square one. They have to start from the ground up. But here, when you hear farmers are being attacked, a small attack, compensation. But when pastoralists are attacked, nobody's talking about compensation, Mr. Speaker. That is such an unfair way of treating Kenyans. And while I fully agree that the...
Now, honorable senators, the 15 minutes allocated to comments have long lapsed. We will there proceed to the next order. And before I allow the clerk to call the next order, kindly allow me, pursuant to Standing Order 45-2, to rearrange today's order paper and move straight to order number 21. Clerk, you may proceed to call that order.
Order number 21, motion. Consideration of a report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights on its consideration of a petition to the Senate by Mr. Laban Umusundi regarding the enactment of a legal framework to provide
to that level. It is sad when you hear people say that there is no harm, there is no mistake in one contributing 10 million in one function. The question is, where did that money come from? So something has to be done in this country, and that is the message Mr. Laban Musundi is trying to communicate to us. Madam Speaker, I support the report, but request that the issues raised by Laban Musundi be looked at keenly, so that when we have a moment for constitutional amendment, we need to provide for a citizen-initiated recall for the president and governors, besides the impeachment process which is provided for in our constitution. I support.
Senator Mogeni.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for also giving me an opportunity to make my contribution on this report by the Standing Committee of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights. Madam Speaker, whereas I agree with the general recommendation of the report, which is that we should reject the route being proposed by Mr. Musundi, this petition, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, as we have rightly pointed out, should be a wake-up call to this Parliament. When I say Parliament, it should be a wake-up call to the National Assembly and to the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, when a citizen takes time, pens a petition, and says that he, as a citizen, he has concerns that Parliament and county assemblies are often compromised by political patronage, meaning, Mr. Speaker, that there are people out there holding political positions that direct how Parliament conducts its business. And then he says that this House is compromised through financial inducements, Madam Speaker. And thirdly, he says that we have fallen short of enjoying trust by Kenyans because of party intimidation. Madam Speaker, this constitution was hailed as one of the most democratic in Africa, and you midwifed it. And you know how it was celebrated in the continent of Africa as one of the most progressive constitutions ever enacted, Madam Speaker. And I must thank the president who received this baton, President Kibaki. He allowed freedom to flourish. In the days of President Kibaki, Madam Speaker, Parliament was lively. Parliament could debate issues. Because a debate means that you have a right to oppose what the other side has said. Debate in the House, Madam Speaker, in the Commonwealth means that you don't need to agree with what the other side is saying, the government side or majority side. That's what it is meant by having a debate in Parliament. But, Madam Speaker, what we are seeing happening now in our Parliament is a situation where we turn back to listen what is the wish of the executive on a matter. I remember, Madam Speaker, that in 2011, when my name was proposed to this House to be the head of Anti-Corruption Commission, there was a serious debate on the floor of the House. And people were given the freedom to freely air their views on the floor and cast a vote on how their conscience guided them, Mr. Speaker. I remember cabinet ministers then, cabinet secretaries now, ministers as they were known then, who stood up and told Kibaki that they did not agree the way he was handling that matter of nominee to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. I remember James Orengo was a cabinet minister then, but he voted to reject the name that had been forwarded by the executive. The vote was 49-49, Madam Speaker. But we are seeing a situation, Madam Speaker, even on an issue that our conscience should guide us. We are being told you must support broad-based government. Madam Speaker, we know how coalitions are crafted. Me, I'm a member of ODM. Nobody has brought any matter to my attention where there has been an agreement between UDA and ODM to have a coalition, and what terms are governing that coalition. So when Mr. Musundi says the issue of party intimidation should be addressed, we should take note and do something, because Parliament should be reactive. If we notice that there is a problem, Madam Speaker, we must confront it, Mr. Speaker. When Senator Manzo or Senator Ososi is elected to this House, you are here to represent, you are here to oversight, Madam Speaker, and the only way you can represent and oversight is you come here
cast your vote as senator for Vihiga or senator for Makueni, and also, as the Constitution permits, be a member of a standing committee and participate without intimidation from your political party. And we can borrow what happens in the Commonwealth, Madam Speaker. You know that during Brexit in the UK, in 2013, the then Prime Minister gave members of House of Commons a free vote. He said on this one, vote guided by what your conscience tells you. Because we are in a democracy, Madam Speaker. So we as members of ODM, we belong to, when you look at the ideals of parties, we believe that ODM stands for a democratic society where there is openness, where there is freedom to debate on issues, and where you are given freedom to cast a vote guided by what your conscience tells you. That's what Musundi is telling us, that we should not allow this issue of party intimidation or political patronage. Even as way back as 1975, Prime Minister Wilson in the UK allowed members of the cabinet to break the issue of collective responsibility in cabinet and vote on issues that touched on the European Union as their conscience guided them. So this matter, Madam Speaker, should make us to look either our standing orders, look at our constitution, because our constitution is not cast in stone, Madam Speaker. We expect in a Senate or a National Assembly that has the majority side and the minority side, when the majority side makes a statement, Madam Speaker, I expect my minority leader, Stuart Mazayo, judge, retired judge, to give a counter response to the minority's position, which should be the government position. And if Judge Mazayo is doing that, nobody should intimidate him. That's what we see every day, Madam Speaker. Even if you watch tomorrow on Wednesday, debate in the House of Commons, that's what you see. If that is not happening, then we have no debate. We should say we are not a democracy, we are a dictatorship, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, on the issue of violence, I'm waiting to hear what the President will tell Parliament when he'll make his address to Parliament. Because under Article 240, he is the chair of the National Security Council. And the Constitution says in Article 243 that the Council shall exercise supervisory control over the national security organs. I want to know whether it's the President who is supervising the police officers who are killing Kenyans. And then we respond by saying we have set 1.2 billion shillings to pay victims without accountability. We need to know, Madam Speaker, who killed the people being compensated. What action has been taken? It could be they be prosecuted, Madam Speaker. Disciplinary action can be taken, Madam Speaker. When George Floyd was killed by a police officer, the entire world witnessed. The police who were involved were arrested, they were prosecuted, and they were jailed. How can we as a country be saying we are paying victims of that violence without seeing people being taken to court? And we should also go for extraordinary steps as a House. We should summon the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Madam Speaker, to appear before us and tell us what has the judiciary done with the cases that have been presented before them. And the judiciary should not hide under this concept of judicial independence. Go to the House of Lords every year in June. And the Lord Chief Justice of UK currently is a lady. She attends the House of Lords, Madam Speaker, and she gives a scorecard how the judiciary has protected human rights, Madam Speaker, and how the judiciary has dispensed justice to the citizens of UK. We also want the Chief Justice to come here because I saw she attended the launch of that distribution of 1.2 billion shillings. Let her also come and tell us, does the judiciary support this impunity of saying that you kill people, you pay them, and then we close the chapter, Madam Speaker. So in this year, because the Constitution obligates the President to give a report to Parliament, I want to hear what will the President of the Republic of Kenya tell Parliament about the killings that we have witnessed. Madam Speaker, the constituency of Nyaribari Chache has been represented by prominent sons of Omogusi. We had Nyamweya, we had the late Omanga, we had Simeon Nyachai, we had Monda, there was Chris Bichage, then we had Richard Tongi, and now we have Zairi Jianda. And the people of Nyaribari Chache were magnanimous, gracious. They have elected Zairi Jianda. He's not from the Omogusi ethnic group, but they have extended grace to him and elected him as their member of parliament. And then you see reports, Madam Speaker, that the same MP is trying to meet violence against the sons and daughters of Omogusi. We are a very welcoming community, Madam Speaker. When Senator Sifuna and his friends visited Kisii, we welcomed them and we wanted them to come, talk to the people of Gusii, and then they leave without any violence, Madam Speaker. And that happened in several places, but when they reached Keumbu, Madam Speaker, they were attacked. And there is every indication, Madam Speaker, that the member of Parliament for Nyaribari Church must have been involved in that attack. What is he trying to show the people of Gusii, Madam Speaker? I have seen UDA meetings in Nyamira. I've never thought of planning to go and attack any politician from the UDA political wing, because they have freedom to come and sell their policies to my people. My people know what they will do. They will listen to them, but they know what to do, Madam Speaker. As I speak, we have lost our life. A son of Omogusi died from that violence, Madam Speaker. How shameful can it be, Madam Speaker? How shameful can it be? Mzee Simon Nyachai must be turning in his grave and wondering, what happened to the people of Nyaribari Church? What happened? Simon Nyachai was a presidential candidate in 2002. He campaigned all over the country, Madam Speaker. And then what is annoying, Madam Speaker, no action has been taken. It's like the law in this country only applies to certain people, but others are above the law, Madam Speaker. Where will this country head to in 2027 with what we are witnessing in Oloikalau, Madam Speaker? We are making our politics look like a war. People against one set of people against another set of people within the same constituency. Madam Speaker, it is not a do or die contest. The goal must not be win by all means, Madam Speaker. And I don't know what IBC is going to tell the country. Madam Speaker, if you read Article 81 of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, that as general principles for our electoral system, it is very clear, Madam Speaker. Article 81E says, any election must be free from violence. It must be free from intimidation. It must be free from improper influence. It must be free from corruption. Madam Speaker, you have witnessed what is happening in Oloikalau. Government is distributing gas cookers, mattresses, bearing GK markings. I don't know whether they were meant for hospitals, Madam Speaker. And we want to tell the country that that's a free and fair election, Madam Speaker. That's corruption. What is ethics and corruption doing about what we are seeing? Open bribery, Madam Speaker. People are getting money, 1,000, no change, go with it. The following day, 2,000, Madam Speaker, just because you want to influence the outcome of a parliamentary election. Look at what is happening in civilized countries. Elections happen every day out there. You look at UK, there will be a by-election, Madam Speaker. Labour, Democrats will come, fight. But they're just doing a fight on the platform of campaign, not what we are seeing. If this kind of bribery happened in that country, so many people, Madam Speaker, will be forced to leave office by resigning, Madam Speaker. So even as we agree with this report that we reject the Musundi petition, Madam Speaker, there should be a wake-up call to the Parliament of Kenya that we are being accused of making our decisions based on financial inducements, political patronage, and that there is party intimidation within the floor of National Assembly and the Senate. That, Madam Speaker, should attract some action from us. We cannot ignore what Mr. Musundi is drawing our attention to. Something should be done. And as I conclude, Madam Speaker, I've read newspapers today on opinions, but I want to tell Kenyans, on 2nd of August 2022, the same company that released opinion polls had given Raila Odinga a lead of 47.6%, ahead of William Ruto at 41%. When we went to the ballot, Ruto was at 50-point-something%, Raila was at 48%. These companies that do opinion polls should be professional, they should be truthful, they should not play politics with opinion polls, Madam Speaker. But the comfort is, I remember even in I think that was 2015, when we had a very hot contest between Labour and the Conservatives in London. Opinion polls were pointing towards Miliband, winning against Cameroon. But when the results came, Cameroon was ahead over 37% against Miliband, who was at 30%. 2025, in April, in Australia, opinion polls were indicating that Peter Dutton was going to dethrone the Labour government of Anthony Albanese. But when the results came, in fact, Peter Dutton lost his own parliamentary seat. So these opinion polls are being released to play politics, to influence what is going to happen in Olekalau on Thursday. Maybe we need to come up with a law, Madam Speaker, that demands more accountability from these companies that do opinion polls. So with those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I hope that our former colleague, Senator Murkomen, will search his conscience, Madam Speaker. We will search his conscience, Madam Speaker, and do something about the violence that we are seeing. Madam Speaker, we want to see action, we want to see arrests, Madam Speaker, either on the politicians who organize for this thuggery or from the youths who are involved in this violence. We want a peaceful country. This is the only country we have called Kenya. I support Madam Speaker.
The mover may reply.
Speaker, I'm guided that I've got 30 minutes to reply. Unfortunately, the members are not here, the ones who raised issues, Madam Speaker, and this is a very, very serious report, which came through a petition, Madam Speaker, and this petition was seriously considered through the committee of JLAC. And actually, the fact that it was in the first place approved show that it had very serious issues. And Madam Speaker, we sat and listened to Omsudi as a committee and any other people who were interested parties. Omsudi was very serious and had a high conviction that something should be done, that something has gone very wrong in the nation, and that something has to correct that situation. Although we have a constitution, his content was that none of us is following the constitution. Although we have impeachment laws and there have been impeachments of governors in this house, and there was an impeachment of a deputy president, he felt that we've not been following the constitution, and therefore, pursuant to Article 1 of the Constitution, then the people should seize this power. And he was comparing it with the power of the National Assembly and the County Assembly. In fact, although people talk about MPs and where a senator is an MP, actually in the law, Madam Speaker, there's nowhere you can impeach a senator, but you can impeach a member of National Assembly. But then there has to be a law, and there have been attempts to impeach members of National Assembly. Signatures have been collected, and after signatures have been collected, they have got to be taken to IBC for verification. And then there's a time you can impeach a member of National Assembly, and a time you cannot. Attempts have also been made at the county assemblies, and it has ended up in frustrations. So even when he's proposing that we impeach a president or a governor as a people, and that a law should be made, of course he's proposing an act of parliament, which we have told him, if the petition is in that direction, it is rejected. If he had come up with a petition asking the House to help him move a public motivated or a public enhanced system whereby we'll end up amending the Constitution and allowing people's impeachment, then we would have answered differently. So when we were saying we reject, we were not being rude to him. In fact, there was a lot of research done, and he made a serious presentation as to the situation in South Africa, where a president is impeached by the people, but through the political party. And it is true, if a political party was fed up with its president, through its numbers, supported by other numbers in the House, through a political party, you can actually impeach. But in our scenario, you've got to come to the House through an impeachment motion. So as much as his frustrations can be seen, which have been expressed, that in 2024, and this is where this was born, Madam Speaker, there was a finance bill going on in the House, and we were all here. There was a public participation, but everything looked cosmetic. People talked about the cost of bread. They even went to where the committee was and ate bread there to show that they are dissatisfied. So when the people made public participation, very little was adopted. Madam Speaker, I remember one of the controversial amendments of the Statutory Instruments Act is a section 21 was simply be deleted by a finance bill. You see, some of the regulations deal with finance, but there are many other regulations which don't deal with finance. So they were all lumped up. And if you follow the debate in the House, everybody was agreed. But what was the reason? I sit in the Committee of Delegated Legislation. The reason was this act came into Parliament in 2013. And it says after 10 years, you must, review the regulations. So what do? 2023, the regulations expired. And they were no longer in force. So 2024, instead of making an amendment of the act itself, which they have tried to do later, and there are 2 amendments pending in this House, what they did now was to go and revive this regulation through the back door, through the finance bill. And that was one reason, among many reasons, where Kenyans felt frustrated. I mean, you know how to amend an act as a House, but you want a shortcut. Similarly, miscellaneous amendment of laws come up with similar challenges, whereby through miscellaneous amendment of act, there's a lot of laziness by the House. And now I'm replying on the frustration by the Houses. The frustrations Kenyans have faced through the Houses. And that, Madam Speaker, people are feeling, including Musudi, that we elect people who no longer serve the reason why we elected them. And then the election in the country, the nominations through the political party, the nominations through the independents. When one goes for nominations, that's where the frustrations begin. You actually win a nomination, but you go to your party headquarters and you find that the certificate has gone with somebody else. So you got to begin another long journey of going independent, and time is running out, and eventually you lose a seat. You file an election petition. If it is a nomination level, you go to the political parties tribunal. You can't go direct to the High Court. You go around in circles there. The frustrations are many, even when one wants to become a leader. And that's why I will not be surprised if Obama was a Kenyan and wanted to be elected MCA, maybe they will be beaten by that system we have in political parties, and nobody will see his talent, and you probably lose at nominations, or win, then go and to receive the certificate, and he doesn't have any, and he's very frustrated. Tries the court systems and is frustrated. But in America, he's able to become a president, because the system which you have borrowed heavily with our constitution works. And the political parties apply justice. So the idea of frustration came out very well from Mr. Omsudi. He showed that and the helplessness, and he was representing very many people because he's also an activist, and he has also tried politics, and he's been frustrated. And therefore, he was looking for a system whereby we can enhance accountability, whereby we can check the executive. And now that his expression was, now that we have failed as a house to check the executive, because the only thing which you call the executive at order, either at the county level or at a national level, what you call them to order is the threat of impeachment. But as you have seen, that threat is not that much. We know what happens. You want to impeach a governor, he takes away three-quarters of the House. The case of Governor Songo, the issues that Voti was online, Voti be online, that it didn't happen. Strangers voted. And eventually, Songo was impeached in National Assembly, was impeached in this House, and it went to court, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and the impeachment was confirmed. But it was still, there were now affidavits to say that, honestly, there was no quorum at the National Assembly. What does that mean? that the whole impeachment nullity was a fraud. So then what is the answer? I believe the courts are still following that, and even in this same committee, I have seen, those proceedings beginning to take shape now, Madam Speaker. So the frustration came out very well, and that's why they were asking. But the reason we have listened to him and took the trouble to bring this report here is because we thought it is worth some debate. And even if the method he has proposed is not applicable now and under the current law and under the current constitution, then, Madam Speaker, we have to have this debate so that the House can trigger the nation thinking what can be done in the future, and can encourage many other people who think these amendments of the Constitution are possible to use the right channel and make sure that using the right channel, this can be achieved. It is a very big petition now that it is shaking the foundations of the executive, and it is calling Parliament to do something, and it is calling the people to do something, Madam Speaker. He has talked about weak systems, weak Parliament, weak courts, weak anti-corruption system, because he talked of bribes in the House and the lack of integrity. And then, although he could not verify,
Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. Time to adjourn the Senate. Honorable Manzo, you have a balance of 12 minutes when we resume. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 15th July 2026 at 9:30 a.m.
Online, the Secretary of the Committee, and our legal team. This is the judgment in the matter of the Electoral Code of Conduct set out in the second schedule to the Elections Act, Cap 7 Laws of Kenya, and the Honorable David Gikaria, the respondent. Judgment. The respondent, the Honorable David Gikaria, member of the National Assembly for Nakuru Town East constituency, was summoned to appear before the Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee, which we shall refer to as committee from here,